Welcome to the Impact Lounge. You are in the number one place to be for the Impact Wrestling fan. This is the Cool Factor Podcast. I'm your host, TW, and with me is BQ. BQ, say what up to the people.
What up to the people? I was expecting that big old long intro about the bartender and the mixing and the whatever it is, but yeah, what up?
I'm phoning it in tonight.
Okay.
My Tar Heels getting their ass kicked against Georgia Tech, and it's pissing me off. And so this is all you get. Bah humbug.
I'm all about phoning it in sometimes. It's all good.
Let's see. Before we go any further, go ahead and hit the like button on this video. We want to get the likes up on this video. We got up to, let's see how many likes we got on last week's video. As of today, we got up to 71 likes. Okay. We want this video to get up under 100. That's our goal. Listen, if you take the time to watch this video, to drop a comment, to do anything, just go ahead and hit the like button, man. Just show us that love. Let's get these likes. Let's get these likes up. All right. Let's see. This was an interesting episode of Impact this week. What'd you think of Impact this week?
You know, obviously we're going to kind of break down some of these matches, but it's becoming very formulaic, and that was one of the issues with like Monday Night Raw when it stopped getting interesting, was that there was just this format. It was the Seth Rollins come out and talk for 15 minutes to kick off the show, and then this and this, and and granted, they don't usually kick off with a talking segment as they did tonight, but I mean, there was a point in the show. 2 straight matches ended with distraction roll-ups, and I think that's 3 weeks in a row that they've done it 2 matches in a row. So it's almost like it's, just paint by numbers. Like, hey, here's how the first match is always going to end on a finisher. The next 2 distraction roll-up, and then 2 finishers. End of episode. Let's throw a couple sneak attacks in there. You know what I mean? And that's. It just makes me feel like I'm watching the same show each and every week, and that's just not what I want. But
yeah, this was interesting because I felt like they went out of their way to set up a lot of Bound for Glory on this episode. Like at one point I was watching this just thinking to myself, like, are they just gonna set up the whole Bound for Glory show like tonight? And it kind of felt like they were doing that, like they were getting most of the crowd set up on the way. So, I don't know. I think this is a kind of a pedestrian episode of Impact, but let's dive into it and talk about what went on Thursday night.
I'm going to ask you a question before we kick this all off. Clearly, guys, we're just jumping right into the episode because there's nothing newsworthy to really discuss. So you work in television, dude. Is it that difficult to produce HD quality television?
Well, it depends on what kind of equipment you have access to, right? Like, I mean...
Because it starts with the cameras, obviously.
Well, right. I mean, like, so I work at a big media company, and I would say the stuff we produce for our digital streaming shows versus the stuff that we produce in studio for the linear product, you can tell a bit of a difference. It is what it is. Like all equipment is not created equal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. But in relation to Impact, you're not feeling like the video quality has been up to par?
No, dude, I was watching the episode today, and I guess it doesn't typically bother me, but it stood out to me when Chelsea Green was doing the backstage interview with Cardona, and I felt like I could barely see her, and then I was watching her match with Rohit after, and I just noticed every time they were moving quickly at a quicker pace, it just started getting blurry to me, which from someone who's recorded, you know, videos and then music videos and done some editing with videos and things of that nature, like, and even just using a cheap webcam compared to a better quality webcam. Usually, the cheaper stuff, once you start losing resolution, the faster people are moving, and then it starts refocusing when everyone's still. And that's
Mhm.
kind of what I felt this episode. And I don't know if it was my internet, it's possibly my Wi-Fi, but I don't think so because I watch all sorts of stuff on TV and ranging from sports to wrestling to regular TV shows, and I've never noticed anything like that. But this just particular episode, I felt just looked blurry. It just didn't look very crisp to me unless people were just standing still.
Yeah, well, you know what? So I think that's that could be a matter of the particular like camera people that they have working for them. Like if they're shooting everything at Skyway Studios, they could be using the I doubt that Impact has consistent staff, right? You know what I mean? Or
Mm-hmm.
like, so for example, WWE, I'm sure, contracts their crew, right? Like they don't go from arena to arena and use whatever crew is there locally. I doubt it. I would imagine that they have like a crew that does, that travels with them to do their shoots. Um, Impact is probably not so much. Impact is probably more of, at the mercy of whoever is staffed at Skyway Studios. So whoever is working a particular camera may or may not be the same person who was doing that in a previous episode. So it could be little things as like putting the camera in the right type of focus so that it doesn't go in and out of focus when you move. Um, those things are, again, if you have like a consistent person that's working on your show and knows what to expect, then they might they might have their camera settings set to better shoot what type of stuff you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, so it could be that, you know what I mean? I don't know, but I don't think it's like necessarily like a camera quality thing. I think it's more of like what you mentioned. I think that's more of like a settings thing in the camera.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Impact Executive Vice President Scott D'Amore was in the ring with the X Division champion Josh Alexander. In the closing moments of Victory Road Saturday, Alexander confronted Impact World Champion Christian Cage and announced that he would be exercising option C, relinquishing the X Division title for an Impact World title shot at Bound for Glory. Scott D'Amore said that if Alexander chooses to relinquish the X Division title tonight, then they would start a tournament to crown a new champion, which will begin next week on Impact. Alexander recalls almost losing his career due to a neck injury a few years ago. Now he wants to become the face of Impact Wrestling, but in order to do that, he needs to have the Impact World title around his waist. Christian Cage interrupts and says that while Alexander may be the face of the X Division, he will not be the face of Impact. Alexander thanks Christian Cage for making his decision that much easier and hands the X Division title to Scott D'Amore. Then Ace Austin and Madman Fulton interrupt, and Ace calls Alexander a quitter for relinquishing his title. And then a brawl breaks out involving all four men, but Ace gains the upper hand when he drives his cane into the eye of Christian Cage. All right, then. So what'd you think of this opening segment here?
It was a good opening segment. As I said earlier, I'm not a big fan of kicking the show off with talking. I've never enjoyed that with a wrestling show. I think it's a horrible way to start a show personally. But given the the magnitude, excuse me, of the situation where it's option C, he has to relinquish a title. We're talking about for Glory main event. I understand why you would kick the show off with it. Like I absolutely do. I thought it was all going really well when Josh had said that you just made this decision easier for me. Like that was all great. The Ace Austin coming out kind of killed the momentum of it for me. I'm like, what are we doing here? And I'll probably reiterate this in the main event, but we're getting to a place with Ace Austin that we know he's one of the future cornerstones of the company. But then when he gets the main event opportunities, more often than not, he loses. And there's only like so much you can do that with somebody. Here's your world title shot. Like here's your, um, I for me it was just a lazy way to set up a main event for the evening.
Mm.
But I think what I did dislike about this was that when Ace Austin started talking and started saying, I would have never relinquished the X Division Championship, he was getting ready to touch on something that I brought up last week when I said, well, why doesn't every X Division champion do this? Like, if you win the title, okay, defend it for a while, but then why doesn't everyone cash it in? Because now this is not about Destination X. It's not like it's just about whenever you freaking feel like it.
Yeah.
So why not cash it in Money in the Bank style? Like I don't understand that. And he was getting ready to touch on, well, I would have never relinquished the X Division Championship. And I was for a second like, oh shit, where's this gonna go? And then Josh walks up and he says, well, that's because you wouldn't have done it because I beat you for it, which that makes no sense because he was the champion twice. He did have title reigns. Like just because Josh may have taken the belt from him, which did he? I thought I could have swore he took it from TJP, but I guess he took it from Ace Austin. Did he take it from
Um,
Ace?
he did beat I think he beat Ace Austin for it. Yes, I think he did.
Okay, but it was just for Josh to just jump
But
in. Well, the
TJP was in
reason,
that mix somewhere though.
yeah. It was like the gift that keeps on giving. Like we just kept getting them fighting each other every week.
Right.
Um, so I just thought it was unnecessary for Josh to jump in there, and then what he said to me made no sense really. I mean, but overall it was a good segment. Scott D'Amore was all over this show. I mean, all over it. So that's what I got on it.
Yeah. All right. So after this, we got Willie Mack and Rich Swann in a backstage interview segment. Willie Mack makes it known that he wants to enter the tournament to crown a new X Division champion. Meanwhile, Rich Swann and Brian Myers both declare their entry into the Call Your Shot gauntlet at Bound for Glory. After a war of words, Swann challenges Myers and one of his students to a tag team match later that evening. Then we see Christian Cage. He's deemed unable to compete by an Impact physician. Josh Alexander says that he'll take care of it as D'Amore makes a match between him and Ace Austin official for tonight. All right. Now, let me say something real quick about this tournament to crown a new X Division champion. They've decided that the tournament to crown a new X Division champion is going to be a series of triple threat matches with the three winners from those going on to what? A triple threat match at Bound for Glory to crown a new champion. And it just feels lazy to me. It feels lazy. Like I don't understand the need to just like it. Okay, that's 9 people, right? That's 9 people. You can have a tournament. Have a tournament. Tournaments write themselves. Tournaments are their own episodic television. People like tournaments.
Hell yeah.
Do you like tournaments in
Love
wrestling?
tournaments. Love
I
tournaments.
love tournaments, especially when there's some real stakes on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have a tournament to crown an X Division champion, that person who has the title has a legitimate claim to saying they maybe not ran through the X Division, but out of everybody who had a shot, they became victorious. Like what? Or a gauntlet. Impact does really good gauntlet matches.
Yeah,
I know they're doing a Call Your Shot gauntlet, but I'm just saying, like the urge to have these multi-man matches. I think Josh Alexander proved that as the X Division champion, it doesn't have to be, flippy no sell nonsense. Like that doesn't have to be what the X Division is.
Mm-hmm.
It can be the X Division title can be the match where people are busting their ass, having unbelievable matches. Make that the X Division.
Yeah.
Right? Like if that's gonna be, like make the X Division title the one match on the show where you're gonna have that that Ring of Honor NXT takeover style match where there's just it's just balls to the wall. You know what I mean? Do all your false finishes, whatever. Like really just anything. Make that the X Division style. And then like people will really feel good about the person who's the X Division champion. People be walking around calling this person the best wrestler in the world. Look at all these matches. Look at what Josh Alexander just did. Like make the X Division title the great wrestling title.
Yeah.
Right? Why not?
Yeah.
Why not have that be the hallmark of the X Division instead of, flippy multi-man nonsense? All right. That's my TED talk.
So the first segment we talked about here with Rich Swann and Willie Mack. First, they are finally dressing like each other. They have they're color coordinated, which I love when tag teams do that. It has bothered me ever since they did this, tag teams looking like two individual people tagging up. I
Yeah.
like when they look like they're a team. So what I liked was that Willie Mack was kind of like, hey, I want to get in on this X Division thing. Rich Swann didn't. Rich Swann wasn't like, hey, let me get the X Division title back. Like Rich Swann was the world champion. He even said that I used to be the world title
Right.
champion. I want to get it back. So I'm glad that he kept himself in that title picture. Like he said, I'm going to win the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, which I think he has a good chance of winning it actually. But just the fact that he threw himself in that, he said, maybe I'll cash for the tag team title. He said it at the last minute, but because that's, you want to keep some kind of cohesion of the story there because he isn't a tag team person, presently. But I'm glad that he didn't try to like take himself down to the X Division. So that was really good. That being said, I've totally like forgot my train of thought here. I was saying about Willie Mack and Rich Swann, so I'm just kind of repeat myself into who didn't someone walk up here in the middle of this?
Brian Myers. Brian
Brian
Myers
Myers.
walked
Okay,
up.
so it was a Brian Myers thing. Oh no, this is what I was gonna say. They're clearly going this like, and then this is starting to become like a joking topic over the last few years, where someone's like, "Hey, I'm announcing my candidacy to enter the Royal Rumble,"
Yeah.
and now we're starting to do that with the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, and I don't want that because I thought that's always stupid. Like Scott Demore earlier said, we don't make matches, so like
Right.
it always comes off like the wrestler's just like, hey, I'm putting my name in the hat. I'm entering. I didn't talk to anybody about it, but I'm doing it. Like I'm to the point where like, I feel like I can enter the match if I
Right.
want to. So clearly they're gonna start doing that.
Yeah.
I've never been a big fan of that, but it was a good segment. This is a funny kind of faction that Brian Myers had. Now that they have a name and it's the learning tree, like that's hilarious to me. I think that's a great name. And we'll talk about that match later, but
Yeah.
this was cool. And then totally agreed on the X Division thing. I thought they were just gonna be like, hey, Ultimate X at Bound for Glory, which Ultimate X matches are always good, but it's just, to me, that triple threat revolver match they did was the most entertaining freaking shit the X Division has done in a long time, or most entertaining specialty
That
match they've
was
done.
good.
And I would have preferred that.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
you know, that's all
Yeah,
we're
the
gonna
triple threat
do.
revolver, that was good. Right? Like so you do something new and it appears to work and we haven't seen it again. But yet we can always count on a monster's ball for no reason. We can always count on an ultimate X. I mean, like if you're creating something new, go with that.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. But again, I think this kind of goes back to something that we were talking about earlier off camera about Impact actually knowing their audience. But we'll come back to that. All right. So Hikuleo with Chris Bay versus David Finley with Juice Robinson. All right, so the war between the Bullet Club and Finjuice continues just days after Hikuleo and Chris Bay were victorious over David Finley and Juice Robinson at Victory Road. Hikuleo puts his power on display in the opening moments of the match, tossing Finlay half across the ring with ease. Bay trips up Finley from the outside, allowing Hikuleo to remain in control. Hikuleo hits a big power slam for 2, and Finley connects with a neck breaker to create separation, then takes the Giant off his feet with a crossbody off the second rope. Finley counters a choke slam into a cutter. Bay is about to get involved again, but Juice pulls him off the apron. Finley catches Hikuleo in a pinning predicament to score the victory. David Finley with Juice Robinson defeat Hikuleo with Chris Bay. After the match, Hikuleo jumps Finlay from behind. Hikuleo charges into the corner, but Finlay sidesteps, causing Hikuleo to collide with his own partner. Then Finjuice go for the Doomsday device, but Bay and El Phantasmo makes his shocking return to break it up. Finjuice falls victim to the numbers game as the Bullet Club stands tall. What'd you think about this?
I thought the match was okay. Hikuleo, when I saw him wrestle on AEW against Lance Archer, I was very impressed by him. But now that I've seen him a couple times in Impact, it's not that I'm not impressed by him. He just doesn't really wrestle like a big guy, but he doesn't wrestle like a little guy either. Like
Yeah.
it's easy to get him off his feet. You know, I used to say this about Falaba when he first joined Impact. Like that dude, I was like, and he was a lot bigger at the time. He his debut match, he was off his feet like at least 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, so he just doesn't wrestle like a big guy, but he's not like Brian Cage flying all over the place at the same time. You know what I mean? Like it's weird.
Yeah.
But I thought El Phantasmo coming out was awesome because it further solidified Chris Bay's presence in the Bullet Club and that he's a legitimate member and that he's being recognized as a legitimate member by people in the group. You know, I was concerned it was going to be like Booker T and the NWO thing, where it was kind of like he doesn't really feel like a part of this.
Yeah.
But they're solidifying him in the group. This is the first, just roll up finish distraction type of bullshit. And then it's always followed by a beatdown. Like don't do what AEW does, where half of the matches on the card every night are on Dynamite are followed by a beatdown. Like don't do that. Just please don't freaking get into that. But I've said a few times, dude, I just don't care about Finjuice at all. I'm not. They're good, but me as a fan, I'm just not that entertained by their matches because they're just like a couple dudes, and I hate guys that are just. I mean, I don't hate them. I'm not a fan of wrestlers who are just dudes. They're just guys. Doesn't mean they can't wrestle, they can't do all this and this, but when they just look like some dude at my gym. I just can't get into it. But it's good to see Bullet Club get some wins on the show, and then as I said, Phantasmo coming on, having love for Chris Bay out there really solidified his spot in there.
Yeah, I love the idea of Chris Bay getting his own separate like little unit of the Bullet Club to be the leader of, be the head of on his own. I think that really goes far towards, like you said, really establishing him as like an officer, if you will, in the Bullet Club, like the head of the Impact version of the Bullet Club. So I like that. Speaking of stuff we don't really care about, after the rest of Violent by Design brutally beat down Rhino last week, Eric Young deemed that it was just a learning opportunity. Then in a backstage interview, Chelsea Green tells Gia Miller that she's about to get her retribution on with Rahit Raju after he took her out of action with a devastating tiger knee. Then one more quick backstage segment. Kimberly and Brandy Lauren deliver a Swingerella's soul to Sue Young. Do you have any thoughts on these?
Okay, so what was the first segment here?
It was Violent by Design. It was a promo where Eric Young basically says that was a learning opportunity when Rhino caught his beat down from the rest of the team.
I don't know. I went from having a lot of interest in this angle to now not caring again. So they're going to have to hook me in because
I think this is the thing where Rhino's going to be alienated by the group. And like you said, that's going to open the door for Ginger Man to come back and make the save.
I think for sure. And then what was after that?
Then it was Chelsea Green telling Gia Miller that she's going to get retribution on Rohit for giving her the Tiger D.
My God, didn't Cardona say that he delivered the radio silence to Shira and he's out of action because he's out of commission for that weak ass move? That's what he said.
Something
He's like he's out of commission to, like, they were obviously telling the story to clear the way for Raj Singh, but they were just like, I took him out of action after hitting radio silence. I'm like, dude,
right,
hit radio silence on me and I'll be back the next night podcasting. Like,
The wild thing about this to me though is like, okay, so you lost one goon for Rohit, so you brought in another one, but like, is he only allowed to have one goon? Like, why not reform the Desi Hit Squad with Rohit as like the actual leader now? Now that Rohit has some personality and he has some wins under his belt, so why not give him a couple of goons now and really see what he can do? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like Impact cuts off its own nose to spite its face. Like, again, we don't know what the situation is, like why Shira wasn't there. But to me, it would make sense, right? If you have Shira, you don't need to remove Shira and then bring in Raj Singh. Let him have both of them. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
why not? Why not let Rohit be the leader of his faction? Like, yeah, we got the Desis back together. Like, am I wrong? Like, what can't Rohit do? Especially if you give him two goons now.
Well, those looks like that's where they're going. So
But they said they're taking Shira away, right?
no, no, they just said that that's why he was off TV this week. He hit radio
This
silence and
week.
took him. Yeah,
All right.
it was kind of like no one
So
can save you now because I hit radio silence.
right.
Yeah,
That's it. You're done.
yeah,
All
over
right.
career over.
So we had Rohit Raju versus Chelsea Green. Chelsea pummeled Rohit in the corner with repeated strikes. Then Rohit turned the tide when he pulls Chelsea down to the mat by her hair. Chelsea connects with a snap German suplex for two. Rohit tried to use the ropes for leverage, but Cardona pushed him off from ringside. Out of nowhere, Raj Singh made his jaw-dropping return, jaw-dropping completely, and he throws Cardona face first into the steel ring post. Rohit rolls up Chelsea off the distraction for the win. Rohit gets the win over Chelsea Green. He's got to be the number one contender now. All right? Am I right?
Yeah, another roll up finish. You know they've been into this intergender thing again. They're dipping their toes back into it. It only works if the guys win sometimes. But if the guy's gonna win, have them win. Don't like, oh, the only reason he beat Chelsea is because he rolled her up. You know
Yeah.
that doesn't. I'm not a big fan of that. And then Chelsea went for her finish a few times where this is my hot button topic lately. Um, Going for her finish, that's the same exact as Christian Cage's.
Right.
So
You know what though? Like, I've been liking these matches. I think Chelsea Green, she does well in these matches, especially with Rohit. I think one thing we learned from Tessa's run as a main eventer is that it's very important to match the talents properly. You know,
mhm.
like, think about it like this. You were like, oh God, why is Tessa wrestling OVE every week? But Tessa was wrestling OVE every week because those were the people who could make her look like a credible champion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, and so, once those guys were out of the picture, that bloom was off that rose real quick. So when you're going to do intergender wrestling, it's important to have the right match in size and style so that the people can work together. So and plus I like Rohit because if you're going to do something like, do the roll up finishes or the sneaky wins, that type of thing, Rohit is the type of dude that can pull that off. Like, yes, he could just knee her in the face and get the dominating win, but he could also do the sneaky roll up and you're like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, he's good in that way. So I think, for Rohit, that's one of those like curse of being good enough to do anything type things. You know what I
right.
mean? Like, so, I don't know, but it works for me. All right. Eddie Edwards is enraged after W. Morrissey powerbombed Alicia at Victory Road. Sammy Callahan persuades him to work together in order to exact their revenge. The first target is Moose as they lay him out with a 2-on-1 attack in the backstage area. Then we see Brian Myers, and he says that none of his students from the Learning Tree are ready to be his partner tonight. So instead, he'll be teaming with another man who he trained, the seasoned VSK. All right. So we had Rich Swann and Willie Mack versus Brian Myers and VSK. I guess this VSK down with the Learning Tree now?
Right. He was dressed a lot like Brian Myers. I think they have very similar pants, so
Uh-huh.
It's a possibility. YouTube had it as Swan and they didn't even give Swan a first name. It said Swan and Willie Mack versus the Learning Tree. So
Interesting. All right. So Rich and Willie hit VSK with a double flapjack in the early going. Willie counters an arm drag for Myers into a strong running shoulder tackle for 2. Willie knocks Zicky Dice off the apron with a right hand, but the distraction allows VSK to hit a sliding power bomb. Rich hits a running frog splash on VSK, but Myers breaks the pin attempt. VSK almost puts Rich away with an elevated DDT. Sam Bill pushes Rich off the top rope, but it propels him into a pinning predicament on VSK for 3. Rich Swann and Willie Mack defeat Brian Myers and VSK. What'd you think about this?
So to go here back real quick, I was watching. That well, obviously I was watching. We were all watching, but when they were showing when Alicia got power bombed,
Uh-huh.
no doctor came running out. Nothing. Some security came out, and then Eddie. I have extensive medical training. All right. If there's a potential like C-spine injury here because a guy who's they call him 7 foot, he's about 6'8" or 6'9", power bombs this 5'4" girl, she should probably be going out on a stretcher, not Eddie carrying her with her body completely limp.
Gave her the Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah, but I mean, like her head was bent all the way backwards and stuff, and I was just like, "Oh my god, dude!" But of course, they don't act like they have a no. They do act like they have a doctor. I don't know of many doctors who practice sports medicine that wear lab coats. Like you think when Kobe tore his ACL that he went to the back and this guy rolled out with a lab coat. It's like let me you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, dude. That guy's got a polo and that's it. So bring a fucking doctor out there. Bring some kind of medical personnel. Like they should have real medical personnel on hand. I would imagine they do. So just have them fucking come out. Like put her on a stretcher. Make this mean something, and then Eddie can go back with her. And then I'm gonna kind of tie this into the Su Yung segment, which is really the mother thing. I don't like that. That's really weird. I thought they had a real opportunity when she took one of the swingerellas. I thought they had a really good opportunity to give Alicia her first meaningful feud by herself without Eddie Edwards, because she's technically a swingerella. I thought there was a real opportunity there, and they chose to make her Eddie Edwards' wife, which she is Eddie's wife, but it's just the default storyline that they go to, and to try to get under Eddie Edwards' skin, terrorize the wife. Missed opportunity for me, personally. So as far as the match, though, Rich Swann and Willie Mack versus the Learning Tree, again, they're funny, dude. This tag team works that they all look kind of different. I know I said earlier I like when they dress alike, but when they all put their arms out like Brian Myers, I thought that was really funny. It was weird that he was like, okay, these guys are too green, so let me bring VSK out here, who's probably just as green as the other 3 people in his group. I'd be willing to bet Zicky Dice has been wrestling longer than VSK has. So I just thought that was kind of funny.
But you know the difference though? The difference though is like VSK looks like promise.
True.
Like when I see VSK and who was that guy that they got doing the thing with the guy that's doing the thing with the luchador guy. It's another new guy.
Oh, John Skyler.
Yes. When I see VSK and when I see John Skyler, like those guys look like the future of the roster, right? Like those guys are where Ace Austin was 4 years ago.
There we go.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like you can give those guys some big wins, or you can give those guys can just be, they can be there for now as like borderline enhancement talent until you need them, right? Until some of the guys who are near the top now start moving on. And like again, this is one of those times when we have to remind ourselves that, like it or not, Impact Wrestling is a developmental promotion.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It is. It is. It is. It is. It is. Until they start playing like major arenas and getting thousands of fans in attendance, Impact Wrestling exists so that wrestlers can come get TV time and get a big contract from AEW or WWE. That's why, I remember years ago when they were pushing the big surprises at Slammiversary, and Don Callis talked about pitching come to Impact and get yourself over. Right, that's what it is. It's just like back in the day, all the smaller wrestling promotions that you knew, all your local territories, the whole thing was come here and get seen so you can get a contract from WCW or from WWE. So Impact Wrestling, like it or not, Impact Wrestling fans, Impact Wrestling is a developmental promotion. It is what it is. Um, so with that said, right, like the guys like John Schuyler and VSK, those are the guys who are, I don't know, maybe 4 years away, right, from like being in the major storylines on Impact and getting their turn to move on to AEW or to WWE. So, but that's what I see when I see those guys. I see those people who have a chance to be the future going forward.
Yeah, I laughed out loud when Brian Myers was talking. Then he just turns to Sam Beal, was like, I'm talking. Why aren't you writing this down?" I don't know why he has a marker board all of a sudden. Like, I don't. That's not the best note taker in the world, but it's whatever. But you're right. VSK is
it's a
not.
good gimmick.
Yeah, but VSK is like he can team up with Brian Myers, and it's not a joke. And I think that's kind of where you're going with it a little bit. So
Yeah.
it works.
All right. So Johnny Swinger was concerned that Swingers Palace is going to go out of business when Bound for Glory emanates from Las Vegas on October 23rd. So Swinger invites Scott D'Amore to Swingers Palace next week to persuade him to change the location of the event. All right. After retaining the Impact World Tag Team titles over Rich Swann and Willie Mack at Victory Road, the Good Brothers take a much needed vacation. Then we got Mickie James coming out to the ring. She calls out Deonna Purrazzo in an attempt to resolve their issues that stemmed from her attack at NWA 73. And Mickie James challenges Deonna Purrazzo to a match at Bound for Glory. Deonna Purrazzo comes out, basically refuses the match, says it does nothing for her. Then her and Mickie get into a brawl. Scott D'Amore comes out and says, I think we do want the match. And then he actually makes the match between Purrazzo and Mickie James for Bound for Glory. All right, before I move forward, what did you have anything on this stuff we just did here?
Yeah, what was the? And I know I've said this multiple times, but from talking before we went on the air here, my mind is elsewhere a little bit. What happened before this? The segment.
It was Johnny Swinger.
Oh, okay.
It was a Swingers Palace, and then after that, it was the Good Brothers cutting a promo talking about them going on vacation.
Which I couldn't give two shits about. The swinger stuff actually made me laugh. This was a couple of weeks in a row that I found it funny. Worst underground casino ever. I think all you can do is play one game, but I actually thought it was funny. And then the match was what was the match now? Folks, my head is a little elsewhere tonight, so I'm sorry.
This was so we got Mickie James and Deonna Purrazzo. They had a in-ring promo segment where Mickie talked, she brought out Deonna Purrazzo and talked about, how they need to just have their match at Bound for Glory. Yeah. Deonna Purrazzo came out and said, this match does nothing for me. I don't need this match. And then they got into a brawl, and then Scott D'Amore came out and made the match.
I know I keep saying this every week, but Mickie James looks so good right now. Every time she comes to him, I'm like, she looks hot as shit. I'm enjoying what they are doing. I'm enjoying the dynamic and just the story being told. I kind of popped in my bedroom when she told Deonna, or when Deonna told her, there's names, basically names upon names ahead of her that are the reason she got into wrestling. Like I did not look up to you, Mickie James. You know, like you were nothing to me, a blip on the radar. So I thought that was good. And Deonna has a very shaky voice, dude. I don't know if it's just the way she talks or if she's
Her
still.
voice. It's just how she talks.
Yeah, at first I was like, she's very nervous, even though but I'm like, dude, the promos are too good to be nervous. So maybe it's just her
Yeah.
voice, whatever. Um, but I'm really looking forward to this match. I think this is gonna be the best knockouts match we've seen in a long time.
Mm. Yeah. No, I mean, they definitely. I'm sold on the match. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure Mickie James is going to deliver, and Deonna Purrazzo has been delivering consistency. We have no reason not to think she's going to deliver. So, you know, I'm here for it. All right. So Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan, they are about to attack W. Morrissey in the back. When Scott D'Amore and security intervene, D'Amore tells Eddie that he'll have his chance at revenge when he faces Morrissey in a street fight next week. Then Gia Miller interviews Gail Kim, who's in charge of Knockouts Knockdown, Impact's returning all knockout event, streaming on October 9th on Impact Plus and YouTube for Impact Ultimate Insiders. After announcing an 8-person tournament where 4 of Impact's knockouts will face 4 of the best talent from outside the promotion, she's interrupted by the Influence, who demand a Knockouts Tag Team title opportunity on the show. Kim tells them that they will have to earn it when they meet Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellering in a #1 contenders match next week. The
I
winners will
can't
challenge Decay at Knockouts Knockdown for the tag team titles.
I cannot believe they're doing another street fight no DQ. I mean, it is almost like they're trolling this podcast at this point. But it's. I cannot believe they're doing that again. Like you've got to be kidding me. Like you have to have something else. This
I actually thought that would be the Bound for Glory match. I
right.
thought that Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan in some sort of like hardcore match versus Moose and W Morrissey. To me, that seems like that'd be the pay-per-view match. You have these 2 big bullies, and you have these 2, hardcore soul of the promotion guys. And the great equalizer is that we're just gonna let anything go.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's why I said weeks ago they could do something really special with this feud, and they just keep giving it to us. You know, no build, making us wait, nothing. When they attacked Moose earlier, and he was just sitting at that table on his phone, and he was just like, "How's Alicia?" or "How's Lish?" You know, I thought that was hilarious. We didn't talk about this because we said there was no Impact news. There was Impact news because Sami Callihan. Because we
Oh,
just kind of
that's
skipped this
right.
over. So our apologies. But he is injured. He is done for the rest of the year, so he's not doing Bound for Glory. Uh, so it's going to be interesting to see how they, knowing what we know about Impact Television, they're probably going to book some kind of tag team match between Sammy and Eddie versus them in Bound for Glory because that's how TV's filmed. And then the day before the pay per view or something, oh, well, Sammy can't wrestle, can't compete, and then who knows who the hell will replace him because they just lack the main event talent to do it. So I don't know.
Yeah, as crazy as it sounds, like I almost feel like I would put Eddie in a 2-on-1 handicap match and like just have them beat the crap out of Eddie, but have Eddie like fight valiantly and lose. But it'd be one of those things where Eddie's stronger for taking that kind of beating.
Yeah.
Is that crazy?
No, it's
That's
not
actually
crazy.
that's a Paul Heyman special. That's a
Yeah.
Paul Heyman special. Is to have somebody take a beating to get them over with the crowd. Eddie's already over with the crowd, and having him just being like that hardcore dude, you know what I mean? That heart of the promotion type of dude. I think having him just take a beating like that, in front of these like by these monster heels, they get the win. Eddie doesn't lose anything. Eddie actually gains something by taking this brutal beating. And then you can have Eddie come back and get them 1-on-1 and, get revenge individually.
I'd have them write him off TV for a few months, trying to line it up with Sammy's return. To
Yeah.
be honest,
You could do that, right? And then have Moose and Morrissey go on like a run of terror.
just destroy people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually would be really good.
Hmm.
Have Moose and Morrissey go on like a run of terror, and just when it looks like they're gonna maybe get the tag team championship, have Eddie and Sammy come back and ruin it. I would.
Right.
Oh my god, that'd be great. That'd be awesome.
So we'll see.
That definitely won't happen.
No, definitely
All right.
not.
All right. So we got Ace Austin with Madman Fulton versus Josh Alexander. It's main event time on Impact as Josh Alexander goes one on one with Ace Austin. Fulton hooks the leg of Alexander in an attempt to give Ace an advantage, but Alexander fights right back with a T-bone suplex. Moments later, Fulton gets up on the apron, and this time it's enough of a distraction to allow Ace to capitalize with a running bulldog. Alexander locks in the ankle lock until Ace breaks it up with an enziguri to the back of the head. Alexander connects with a bridge German suplex for two. Alexander continues the assault with a pinpoint knee to the neck. Alexander super kicks Fulton at ringside, but then gets caught with a super kick from Ace that sends him crashing right into the back of Fulton. Alexander power bombs Ace onto his knee, then delivers a devastating C4 spike to win. Josh Alexander defeated Ace Austin with Madman Fulton. By the way, yo, that power bomb onto the knee looks brutal. Oh my
Yeah.
god, that into the C4 spike. That's a mwah. That is a great finishing combo. So good. So after the match, Ace and Fulton deliver a 2-on-1 assault to Alexander until Impact World Champion Christian Cage makes the save. Alexander confronts him in the middle of the ring, like, hey, I don't need your help. And then Ace and Fulton attack both of them from behind. And once again, and excuse me, when Christopher Daniels makes his shocking Impact return to send Ace and Fulton retreating as Impact goes off the air. What'd you think about this main event?
So with Ace Austin, this kind of goes back to what I was saying. We're getting into a territory where he's the up and comer for the company. Keep throwing him in the main event, and he loses. So what's he gonna do now? Wrestle in the freaking X Division tournament? Most likely, and most likely he'll be in that 3-way at Bound for Glory. I think they have to find something different for him to do. He's had very good stories with Eddie Edwards, with Trey Miguel. They've when they were able to do that, I'm gonna bang his wife, and I'm going after his mom. Like those kind of stories, those sleazy storylines, those were really entertaining. They didn't need the title. Well, I think the Trey Miguel one might have had the title involved, but I think they got to find something, a good story for him at this point. He can't just keep doing this. But because they lost last week too, didn't they? The Team Ace versus
Yeah, I think they did.
yeah. So I
I can't
mean,
remember last time those guys won something.
yeah, you know, I don't. What's Christopher Daniels doing here? Like he
Okay. So
because
this
he
goes
hasn't
back.
wrestled in AEW in months because they lost that match where SCU had to break up, and
Right.
then he's
And
never
by
been
the
on
way, by
TV.
the time he got to the end there, he looked like he needed to be retiring. It
He,
was
he was winded as fuck, blown up.
yeah, he didn't look like he was in ring shape anymore. But this kind of goes back to something we were talking about off air. We talk a lot about how maybe Impact doesn't know its audience, and we talk about that in the context of how is Impact going to move forward, right? That's how we always have this conversation. Is like how is Impact going to grow? And then when we say that, then we always say they don't even know who they're making the show for. But we're wrong, wrong. Impact does know who they're making the show for, and this move proves it. Because if you watch the show and you pay attention, Christopher Daniels got a huge pop when he came out. And so Impact knew that he was the right person to bring back, and they knew that he would get well received, and he was. So maybe Impact does know who the show is for. But unfortunately, this is not a demographic that's going to grow this show. This is the people who are still stuck on the glory days of Impact from 2009 up through 2013, and they're watching, hoping that it can get back to that. In some ways, that's me. Weirdly, you know what I mean? Like I if I was just getting if I had been out of wrestling for 4 or 5 years and I just picked it up today and was seeing Impact for the first time, I'd be like, ugh, I don't want to watch this. But I watched it when it had much higher production value and rising stars and a good product. And I saw this horrible downturn and I stayed stuck in it through all the Dixie Carter news and the bankruptcy and the court trials and the network switching. And I followed it through all of that. And some part of me wants to see them rise up from all of this and become a viable wrestling promotion again. But I mean, the reality is that's probably never going to happen if we're being honest. But also, I think that's the mindset of the majority of Impact fans. Like that's why, if you're in any Impact conversation groups on like Facebook, you always see people saying things like "Bring the six-sided ring back,"
Right.
or let's do more
King of the
TNA
Mount.
stuff.
King of
You
the
know what I mean? Because
Mountain. Yeah.
people are obsessed with the past of this company. The past was great, but the past is not going to move us forward, man. It's not. It's not. The past, and I say us. Oh, the past is not going to move Impact Wrestling forward.
Right.
Okay, it's not. And Impact, needs to. They need to find the way forward. There's nothing wrong with including people from TNA's past. There's nothing wrong with paying homage to TNA's past. They should because it's a great past, right? But it's more important that you make a star out of Chris Bay.
Mm-hmm.
It's more important that you be able to put Josh Alexander's name on a marquee and fill up an arena. That is more important than Christopher Daniels. Like right now, bringing back Christopher Daniels does nothing for anybody. You can't put Christopher Daniels in a main event with Josh Alexander and make Josh Alexander a bigger star. Not unless you do it on Dynamite.
Right.
Okay, this does nothing for anybody. And this is not to knock Christopher Daniels. I'm just saying that to me, bringing back Christopher Daniels, it speaks to like what the preferred direction of this company is, and it just does not seem one that is focused on growth. I don't know. That's where I'm at with it.
Right. And if Chris Bay and Josh Alexander were to leave tomorrow, they would, the minute they showed up in AEW or NXT, their YouTube content would be all about those guys. Instead of find a reason
Which
to
is
make their
crazy,
YouTube
right? Which
right.
is crazy. Instead of taking these guys right here while you have them now, yo, I can tell you one of my favorite pieces of content from back in the day that I used to love, and WWE used to do this with everybody. There was this video, it had to be around like 1998, 1999, called "The Rock Know Your Role," and it was like the Rock sitting by poolside in character, like, talking about, oh, The Rock is so great and The Rock does this and The Rock does that. And he's basically like throwing to some of his big matches. And like, why don't you do this with the people you have now? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Like, you have these people here now. And just like you said, the second they show up in AEW or something, all you're going to do is promote them. It just doesn't make sense, man. I just, oh God, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like
Instead of
at some point, it feels like putting good money after bad, rooting for this company to do better. It's funny because like before we started this conversation, I was saying how it's frustrating being a sports fan, right? Because you root for stuff that you can't control with these teams, right? Like and in a lot of ways, this is that, right? This is like me rooting for the Jets or you rooting for the Clippers, right? Like it's like you're rooting for a team that historically has been a bum ass franchise, but they've been a bum ass franchise because of ownership, not because of players, because of
right.
the decisions made from the top down affect the product that ends up on the court, which affects the product, overall, the perception of the product.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's the same thing with this company, right? Like, people can say what they want to about WWE, but Vince McMahon has a brain for wrestling and for marketing that works. He
Mm-hmm.
understands show business, right? Like, here's a perfect example. This week on Monday Night Raw, their main event was Roman Reigns versus Bobby Lashley versus Big E. And it was phenomenal, by the way. It was phenomenal. I'm somebody who cannot and will not sit through 3 hours of Monday Night Raw. But this main event was phenomenal. Go out of your way to find it. It was so good. And I sat there and watched it and I thought to myself, this is not unintentional. They put together a main event that was the complete antithesis of AEW. It was three big dudes who look like real athletes and look like they could really fight, and they were all people of color. Those are three things that you will not see featured on AEW. They don't feature people who look like real athletes. The wrestling doesn't look like it's people that can really fight, and they don't put people of color in feature spots. Those are three things you do not see on AEW. And Vince McMahon knows that. It is not. Listen, as someone who works in TV, I can tell you that nothing you see on TV is unintentional, because you can't say I'm about to go live on TV for a half hour, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and hope it goes the way I want. It doesn't work like that. You have it planned. What you're going to put on there is targeted towards a certain audience. So this is bringing us all the way back to Christopher Daniels. Okay, Christopher Daniels coming out was intended to pop someone, but it ain't intended to pop somebody who's going to be going to Impact shows in 5 years. It ain't.
Agreed.
So that's where we are, and I think, like, honestly, I think that's like the biggest problem with Impact right now. It's like, we say we don't think they know who their target audience is. Maybe they do. Maybe they do. And, maybe they're just catering to that person who loves the glory days of TNA. And maybe they have no intention of growing. You know what I mean? Maybe they have decided that you'll be here no matter what, no matter how dumpy of a venue the show is in, no matter how bad the lighting is, no matter how crappy the sound is. Like, maybe they've decided that you'll be here no matter what. So we're going to give you this. We're just going to put on a wrestling show every week. And since you're here no matter what, we'll just give you whatever you'll take.
Right. Yeah.
There it is. All right. Let's see. Let's get into our in the comment section. If you guys want to be a part of this part of the show where we read your comments, just drop them right under the video on YouTube. Leave your name and where you're from so we can give you a shout out. Just like Life After Death Tube says, I absolutely love how much you guys are putting Josh Alexander over. He definitely is the man going forward. Thank you for having eyes. Yeah. The Best Lames 98 says, I think the X Division could use more actual high flyers mixed in to give it more variety, like it used to have. Also, why can't Impact do promos or segments outside of the studio like they used to? What do you think about this, BQ?
Dude, 100%. I've been saying this for several weeks in a row. It's the same few areas of the arena. Like when they actually went to Moose today, when he was sitting at that table on his phone, that was a completely different part of the arena. So it felt really, really different. But it's the same fucking spots, man. Like go outside. Why not go freaking outside? When Moose was doing all his segments up to the Ken Shamrock thing, he was playing basketball and doing UFC fight and do all this shit. Like, he got out of the arena. Like, I just can't wait for him to get away out of Skyway Studios, because it's just the same spots, driving me absolutely nuts.
I totally agree with that.
I don't see, back when I used to listen to like Vince Russo hardcore, he used to always say, why don't they get out of the impact zone? You were in a freaking theme park. Why can't you factor that into the show in one way, shape, or form? Like, something.
You're right. And even with like Universal Studios, like City Walk, there's all those restaurants there. So it's different. There's a lot of good locations you can be shooting stuff. You're totally right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Brad Risk says, I want Moose as champion. He needed it a long time ago. He looks like a star. He needed to be the top guy. What do you think about this?
I feel like I may have said this a couple weeks ago. It seems like every time they lock someone down to a long term contract, there's no title in their future. There's
Mm,
a lot of losing. There's a lot of good feuds, but just nothing, no titles. Like they
yeah.
know Eddie Edwards isn't going anywhere, right? So like Eddie Edwards loses pretty often. He loses enough. He had a one little, or I should say, a second little bullshit title run. And that was it. Like they feel like okay, the guys who are here long term, we're gonna put them in important angles, but they're not gonna be the champion. The champion is someone who's not part of the company or someone who's here for 6 months. I exaggerating saying that, but it just feels like it's, and this is clearly not true if you look at Eric Young and Rich Swann and some of these guys are clearly been around a while, Sammy Callahan, but it just, the feeling is that we want to put our titles on people who aren't going to be here very long,
Yeah.
you know. So that's
Yeah, I totally agree. And when it comes to Moose, man, like I just think the time has come and gone. Like I said, the time for Moose was when they had him on a 2 year pay-per-view winning streak. Um, they had him come off that streak and had him lose to every damn body, every big match he was in. And unfortunately, you've cooled him off. So, he has enough cachet to where he is still one of your bigger stars. But to me, I don't see him as like world championship material. I mean, he could be a world champion. I'm not saying he can't be a world champion, but I don't feel like I want to see what he's like as a world champion now, especially after that match he had with Kenny Omega, where, in my opinion, he sold for Kenny Omega way too much. I'm
mm-hmm.
sorry. I know this was Kenny Omega's story and Impact was just participating, but to me, I felt like Kenny Omega, I felt like Moose, he's this big hulking dude, this guy who, like I said, played 7 years in the NFL. Bro, you play in the NFL, you're going one-on-one with the Aaron Donalds of the world for 3 hours on a Sunday. Like, I'm sorry. Like, people, you can tell me all you want to about how great of an athlete Kenny Omega is, and Kenny Omega could have been an MMA fighter. That's cool, man. But when he wrestles, I don't see that. Okay? I don't see that. So you're selling me 1,000 knees and all of it, whatever. I'm not here to talk about Kenny. I'm just saying that, like, I thought in that match Moose sold too much for Kenny Omega. And so I know, so whereas I did see Moose as somebody who could be a world championship hood ornament for Impact Wrestling, after that match, I didn't see him that way. You know what I mean? I didn't see him that way. I thought that should have been one of those things where, he beat Kenny Omega down and then they cheated they did cheat at the end for him to get the win. But prior to that, I thought he gave Kenny Omega too much. So that was my thought. And that, like I said, that kind of affected the way I looked at Moose as a as being on that level. So and then too, let's not forget the company, the powers that be, don't see Moose in that light. Let's not forget they heated Moose up to challenge Austin Aries for the title. And I know Austin Aries gets really offended by people, saying that his size should affect the way people look at him. He gets really offended about that type of thing. But like, he beat Moose pretty convincingly. And then it just so happened Moose was out with a concussion in real life after that match. And I was just like, man, like, woo, that's rough. And then Moose came back and he was Austin Aries' goon. So like that was fine, but like that's just it didn't feel right. They heated him up to have him lose that match, and it was a good match, but to me, that just told me where they see Moose, right? Like, because it's not like he was back in the main event after that. It took a long time. That was 2018, right? 2017 when he challenged Austin Aries. And then it took he didn't get back to the main event until what was 2021. Whew,
Right.
bro, that's what they think of you. So like, let's not kid ourselves, right? Like, how many instances can you think of a company heating up somebody the way they did Moose and then just, we're good?
Yeah.
So they don't see Moose as a world champion. Don't fool yourself. Maybe in case of emergency, we have this guy here. If our top three options are out of the way, kind of like they were, when Tessa left them hanging. Let's just find somebody to put the title on. But even then they didn't choose Moose. So I mean, look, I don't think this company sees Moose as a world champion. They may give it to him one day, but I think that I just think that time is coming on. So that's where I'm at with that. All right. CFCB says, met Chris Bay at a meet and greet, told him I watched this podcast called The Impact Lounge, and they say he can be the next AJ Styles, and I agree with it. Told him he has the charisma and everything. He said, that sounds great and all, but I want to be the first Chris Bay. Chris came off as the most genuine, down-to-earth, likable guy. Loved talking with him and meeting him. Well, CFCB, first of all, thank you for, carrying the podcast with you. You know what I mean? Shout out to you. Everybody, please, wherever you go, tell people that you watch the Impact Lounge. Okay, let's just remember that. And you can get a shout out like CFCB hero.
Yeah.
BQ, what do you think about this comment?
I love hearing that. We did say that he could be the next AJ Styles, but when we say that, we're basically saying the next guy to carry the torch for the company, the next big dog. We don't really want him to be AJ Styles.
Right.
We just want to see who's going to be that talent that's going to be that people are going to talk about years from now. That impact in 15 years is like, yo, we want to keep playing Chris Bay shit like they do now with Samoa Joe and all these dudes, But yeah, he's his own guy. There's some things that I've said, when he wears certain colors, I said he looks like Kofi, But for the most part, he's definitely carving his own lane, and I'm glad to hear him say that. But just for clarification, when we say that, we just mean just the next big dog for the company.
Yeah. Also, if any of you guys out there meet Allison Kay, tell her she's got fans over here. You know what I'm saying?
I know her. I know her personally very well, dude. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm just saying. But you ain't doing no hookups though. Did you hook me up? Did you plug me in? No, I'm kidding. I'm a happily married man. I'm just kidding. All right. So the Carter Inc. says the upturn on Impact can't be underestimated since they brought fans back in. Skyway Studios might be a small soundstage, but putting fans in there has really changed how Impact comes across on TV. It's rejuvenated the product to a certain degree, and it's time for Impact to really push a homegrown guy again. Moose should have been the number one pick, but Josh could be great, long overdue. Please do not put the belt on an ex-WWE star on his debut again.
Never, ever again. I wish they would go back to some of the when I say the piped in crowd noises, I mean some of the crowd noises they had when they had no people, just for a little bit of white noise. I mean, not take it down 70%, just so where it's a little bit of white noise. I think that would sound really good. They kept showing parts of the crowd in this at the same 3 or 4 parts of the crowd when they were. And it was this guy who had to have been in his 60s, and they just kept going back to him, and I was just like he had a real long like ZZ Top beard and stuff, and I was just like, what are you doing? We talk about the key demographic. Like, you don't put people on the camera who are not in a key demographic, dude. That's common sense. Come on now. But yeah, it's been a different show now that we have some kind of real reaction in there.
Yeah. I totally agree. This is a sentiment that I kind of iterated before, and I totally agree, man. I totally agree. I think that it can't be understated, right? The effect that fans have on this product. Impact was the last promotion to bring fans back in, and listen, not doing any like preaching of being vaccinated or not being vaccinated, but the reality is this pandemic's going to be here, and at this point we all just have to figure out how to live with it and keep ourselves safe, until we get to the point where this is just something like like measles or chicken pox that we're just getting a shot for and just and it just goes away. But for now, like the variants are out there, and it is what it is. So we just have to learn how to live with it and keep ourselves safe. So I understand Impact, waiting to bring fans back in, but now that they're back, and if anybody out here is going to these shows, and it sounds like some of you are, like, yo, y'all are the lifeblood of this show. I'm telling you, man, like, go there, make as much noise, bring your signs, chant at people, boo the bad guys, because y'all are making this show so much better. Keep doing what you're doing. Shout out to the people who are actually going to these shows. All right, let's see. Michael Spikes says, why not do a King of the Mountain match for the vacant Impact X Division Championship? Michael, these King of the Mountain matches are terrible. The rules are confusing, and they're one of the things that people laugh at Impact / TNA for. So no. All right. Impact Wrestling needs to sign indie people to build amazing storyline the whole year. All right, Michael, thank you. What else we got here? Blue Siders 93 says they don't have enough X Division jobbers, which means guys like Jake, Bay, Trey really can't have any consistent momentum with 50-50 booking. Skylar has been impressive since showing up in Impact. Clearly a much better talent than the Dice guy. Yeah, we like John Skylar. Yeah, I think we said that earlier.
Yeah.
All right, definitely. Let's see. Bland Skies 28, a consistent contributor to the show, to the comment section, says, I've seen so far at least no real buzz for BFG. It seems without Omega in the main event versus Josh, it's not as interesting. I think they're going to have to sign some big names for BFG to get any buzz. Just having a good show isn't enough. That's a great comment. What do you think about that?
BFG has a buzz problem every year. Every year. I remember 2 years ago, I did a specific upload on it on YouTube, and some people were really mad at my negativity on it. But I wasn't saying anything that wasn't true. I was like, where is the buzz? There was, just absolutely none. This was the one, and I went to this BFG and loved it. It was the one with Cage and Sammy in the main event. It was the first Call Your Shot gauntlet, which I thought they handled the marketing of trying to promote that match really poorly at the time, because it was an opportunity to be their Money in the Bank, and they made it a joke. But it was a great pay-per-view, but there was just no buzz to it whatsoever. And that is Bound for Glory season. Like it just is every year. I don't know why. It just is. There's just nothing behind it. And as I mentioned last week, when I do content built around, when we have on the channel have done content built around Josh Alexander, it has not done very well. So I'm curious to see what the viewership and social media hits and things like that look like with Josh as the champion. He's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal freaking talent. Like when they signed him, I was like, dude, this guy's a blue chipper. But there's just something about, is he generating interest? I don't know.
I think a lot of it has to do with presentation. And again, this is where if Vince McMahon had Josh Alexander, he would do some of the things that I'm talking about. Like just make his entrance a little better. Like you don't have to ask Josh Alexander to go out there and be a whole nother personality than he is. Like if you know that he just has this very straightforward kind of dry humor, if any humor type personality, then you just got to really build on that, right? Like make the crowd anticipate his entrance. Give him a dope entrance. If you know what he's bringing to the table is great wrestling, then add the entertainment value through production, right? Give him good music. Give him a good entrance, right? To get the crowd hype for the entertainment part of it. And then let him wrestle. Because the wrestling part is where he feels special, right?
Yeah.
Like the wrestling part is where he seems like a world-class talent. But it's up to you, production, to make him feel special otherwise. To the person whose girlfriend is sitting down watching wrestling with her boyfriend, right? He's dragging her to watch wrestling. It's up to you to make it so that when she glances at the TV, she says, let me check this out. This is interesting. oh, that guy seems like a crazy
Yeah.
person. And then he starts wrestling and it's like, oh, that was good. Right. Like I remember years ago, man, like to me, my favorite wrestling match of all time is the first Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker from I think it was WrestleMania
Me too.
25.
That's the best WWE match I've seen.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. And my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, she watched that match with me, and even she was like watching, like, oh, that was a great match. You know what I mean? Like it was so good. And the way they did the entrances, it was like the Undertaker was coming up from evil, and Shawn Michaels was representing good, and just the theatrics were so great. And then what they did in the ring was like, I said it before. In my opinion, it's the best match I've ever seen. You know what I mean? And so I mean, like the wrestlers are going to do the wrestling part, but I think Impact can do more to add the value that make people tell their friends you need to check this out. But I mean, still though, like, anybody who's listening to this, if you guys like wrestling, tell your friends to watch some of these Josh Alexander matches. Tell your friends to watch that match with Josh Alexander and Jake something from the Impact Plus special. Tell your friends to watch that Iron Man match with TJP. Like Josh Alexander has consistently been putting on bangers. Like he's been putting them in the bank.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna know how great he is, but it's up to Impact to promote him and make him a bigger star. So,
And he's got the badass finisher. I've said before, his theme song sucks.
yeah,
Give him badass theme that when that hits, you're like, yo, Josh Alexander comes out. There's a reason Stone Cold hits with the broken glass, Rock hits with
yeah,
the do you smell? Like there is a reason for this shit. There is a you know I brought this story up one time before. Eli Drake was like, well, the reason my song starts with Eli Drake is because within that first second, I want you to know who's coming out. I don't
yep,
want that music to hit and you're looking, you're wait for, you got to see a name pop up or you don't know who's coming out.
right.
That's how Josh Alexander's music is. Like who the fuck's coming
Mm-hmm.
out?
Yeah, no,
Like
you're right.
hit us with something. Bam, dude. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so let's get
Yeah,
into
no, you're right.
one more
And I think that's a production thing. They got to do better with that. All right. So Packed Entertainment says, I hope Impact brings in some new tag teams. Good Brothers don't have anybody else to have matches against, and they haven't already had matches with Morrissey and Moose, and Eddie Edwards and Sammy Callahan just felt like pairings out of nowhere. It doesn't matter with Callahan and Edwards now that Callahan got injured, can't team with Edwards anymore. Impact desperately needs new tag teams. They should bring in the Association, and they should bring in Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas and pair them to make the next Hardy / Broken, the Broken Hardys of Impact. I love that idea. Thank you for that comment, Packed Entertainment. I think that was that was a really good idea. I would love to see Bray Wyatt. Bo Dallas. He was a good comedy character in WWE. I'm sure if given the chance to spread his wings, he could do something interesting. But I'd be interested in seeing him and Bray as like a some sort of brother combo. Like what they could do as a tag team. What you think about this?
Yeah, I don't know who the Association is. I don't know if he meant the Ascension.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was me. That was me. He said the Ascension. Oh
Okay.
God, no.
Dude, I like them.
Right?
I actually like them.
The Ascension was Trash Money Records taking over for the 99 and the 2000.
I think
Good.
I think people wanted to see Bray and Bo do a team for a while now. I just don't think he's coming to Impact. I think there's people who have their fingers crossed about it. I just don't think it's going to happen. So
wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me at all. It wouldn't shock me if he did. It wouldn't shock me if he didn't.
yeah.
I listen, man. Everybody can't go to AEW, bro. I gotta tell you though, I wouldn't be shocked if he went back to WWE. I think sometimes WWE makes cuts when they just get into cut mode, and then they look up and go, "Hey, what can we do for?" Because WWE loves a surprise return,
Yeah.
right? And so, wouldn't that be like a nice surprise return if they just brought back Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman ended up back in WWE. The person who's out there that I think could end up in Impact is Buddy Murphy. He just seems like a fit. He really seems like a fit. I listen, people gonna learn, man. People gonna learn about going to AEW. Going to AEW because you didn't get used in WWE. You're gonna go to AEW and not get used in AEW. So it is what it is. They only got but so much TV time to give out.
Right.
All right, so a couple of quick ones here. City Praise says, love the content, guys. Great episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin Hongeva says Super X Cup was Genesis. They haven't brought back Destination X. I'll tweet Demore right now. Go ahead and do that. Tell him the Impact Lounge sent you.
Yeah.
And let's see here. Whatever boost Impact got from AEW lasted all of 2 months. They're literally back where they started before. Thank you, Captain Obvious. All right. Critical Sting says Destination X is out of rotation. Super X Cub was at Genesis. All right, we've established that already. All right. Let's see. Did we talk about MJF and Jericho in the last episode?
Sure we did.
In Baldwin 45 says, I know it's off topic, kinda, but I disagree about that MJF Jericho point. Yeah, MJF won most of their matches, but Jericho won the match that really counted, and there was no rebuttal from MJF. Once Jericho won, we got an immediate end to the interminable feud. Interminable feud? Okay. I thought the wrong guy went over. Jericho was like that guy, loses a game, then says best of 3, loses the next one and says best of 5. You know who that was like? That was like Triple H. Remember Triple H kept getting matches against the Undertaker?
Yeah.
It was like Undertaker beat him and he's like, but you didn't beat me.
Bet you can't beat me twice, yeah.
That's like,
yeah, that's a hilarious. Yeah, that's hilarious. Hilarious analogy.
Let's see. Michael Spike says Trey Miguel should win the vacant X Division Championship. Suggest to Scott D'Amore and Gail Kim, please. All right, you suggested to Scott.
Dude,
D'Amore,
I want to say, speaking of Gail Kim, I know we lose a lot of viewers by this point in the show, and I should have mentioned this earlier. I'm not liking this knockouts knockdown format of 4 and 4. I liked the every knockout on the roster get a match against an upcoming, or like that. That's fun to me. I don't like where they're going. I'm happy there's stakes that the winner's going to get a future knockouts title match, but I enjoy the old format. I'll just put it like that.
Yeah, I think it's tough with the NWA show that just happened, right? And so I also think that like now with NWA being out there and AEW signing up freaking everybody who's ever apparently wrestled, they, the pickings might be kind of slim. I think if they have somebody out there who's like, truly dedicated to finding, scouting the independents and finding the people who are out there and who are available, I think that there's some opportunity to find some people, but this feels like this came together kind of quickly, kind of reactionarily from the NWA doing that pay-per-view. And so I don't know, like I don't know if I don't know if there's enough like good talent out there to put together, because think about it, like they've been doing so many shows. What am I saying? There's a ton of great wrestlers out there, but I just don't know. Maybe they just put it together too fast, to really scout and see who's out there, to have a bunch of unknowns. But it actually would be pretty cool to have like a show of like, and I think they did this format before, was like they filled the ring with like, new talent, and they said, all you guys are going to have a match against, an Impact contracted knockout. And, I'm not sure what happened at the end of the night, but I thought that was a cool talent. So, I mean, a cool format. So, I wouldn't be opposed to them doing something like that again.
Yeah.
All right, here's one. Lelouch v. Britannia says, I know you guys keep saying Impact could do big arenas, 5K ones, but I don't think they can. New Japan is struggling in Texas. They have only sold 1,000 tickets that they with Osprey, Jay White. The show is next week. It's the same arena AEW sold out. Impact are not good at advertising. I think they should try doing small arenas like ECW Arena. It's a couple of thousand. Or look, GCW selling out those smaller 2K arenas every 2 weeks. Impact should do that. You're not wrong, right? Like Impact is and this is one place where Impact is not stupid. They know better than to book, a big arena. But I want them to try it. When I say try it, I don't mean let's just go book, the American Airlines arena and hope for the best. Like, no, you book it 3, 4, 5 months out, and then you promote the shit out of it. And you like, I don't know if you know this, but there are people whose job it is to promote events in local areas. Okay. So there are that so let's say you're gonna book a show at again, I give the example of Bridgeport, Connecticut has the arena at Harbor Yard, and that's about a 5,000 seater. And WWE used to do that arena all the time for like SmackDown. I don't know if you remember when John Cena threw Edge in the Long Island Sound. That was from the arena at Harbor Yard. Where Scott Steiner first debuted in WWE, that was at the arena in Harbor Yard. So they've done that arena a lot. Where Edge retired originally after WrestleMania, that was at the arena at Harbor Yard. So anyway, if Impact was to book, let's say, that arena, okay, they should hire someone, right? Like there's a wrestling promotion in the Northeast Wrestling. They do great venues. They do great business. I mean, not huge venues, but Impact is a national brand. Okay. Hire that guy, give him 4 months to sell 5,000 tickets. I guarantee you he could do it. I guarantee you he could do it. I don't even know this person, but I guarantee you give him 5 months. And if you focus on selling an arena for 5 months, like for example, if you got a big match, right? Promote your big match for the big arena show. Okay. If we know we're doing Josh Alexander, if we know our biggest match is Josh Alexander versus Christian Cage, then you book Josh Alexander versus Christian Cage for your big arena show, and you do everything you can to make that match feel like something people have to see. Okay. Like I mean, that's what you do. I'm not saying people are frothing at the mouth for Impact and they're just not paying, they're not booking the arenas because they don't want to. Like, no, but you have to have a plan of attack, right? Like, think about how AEW, they booked the 10,000 seat arena, and they did everything they can to make it feel special, for the big event. So I mean, just take the swing, man. Take the swing. I'm not saying that they can just do it like as is, just do it. There's a whole lot of effort that has to be made. Once you book that venue, you have to really invest in trying to sell out that venue. So that's what I'm saying, is book the venue and invest in selling it out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Couple more here. Let's see.
Yeah, a couple more.
Olivia Threadgill says Deonna needs some real competition instead of Mickie James. That hardcore country crop is dead. Olivia, I do not agree with you. So that's for you.
Just kidding. We love you.
The W podcast says Destination X hasn't been brought back. Okay, thank you. Let's see here. All right. Unknown Quantity says, as someone who watches both Impact and AEW, I would say they both have a lot of women on AEW who don't get look in. Okay. So they should be brought to Impact. I would love to see Serena Deeb or Tay Conti having matches with Deonna. Even someone like Big Swole could be good. Who would you like to see come face Deonna? Mark from London, UK. Thanks, Mark. Um, I think that's a great point. Um, AEW actually does have a lot of women, but they don't have a lot of women who have a lot of experience. And they do have some, like Big Swole, who have experience and are good wrestlers, but they don't use very much. So she's someone who I think would be good. Like, let Big Swole come do a tour in Impact. I'd love to see her, get some time in Impact. Tay Conti is another one. Yo, man, whenever I start talking about AEW, it just becomes so apparent to me what the people look like who are getting pushed. It just is what it is. Like, you see the way they position like Anna Jay. Like, yo, she's green as shit, bro.
She
She's
said
green as
today
shit.
she's only had 24 matches.
And they position her big comeback like this is some, oh God, Anna Jay's back. And I'm
Right.
like, dog. They are very clear again about the demographics, right? Like, what you're putting on TV, who you're putting it on TV for. It's all completely intentional. So
Yeah.
yes, send Big Swole over. Let her come have some fun on Impact.
Ty
What
Conti's the
women
one I
from
would
AEW
really.
would you like to see on Impact?
Ty Conti for sure. I think she's amazing. Uh, I would like to see Ali return as her current character
Mm.
because I like the way she's presented on television there. Um, I think Anna Jay would be a good one. You're right. She's very green, but I think I think it would be a good place for her to get some experience wrestling with some of the knockouts. Um, yeah, I would love to see like Hikaru Shida mix it up with Deonna. Like that would be amazing. But Ty Conti is the one for sure. If I had to pick one, like I would absolutely love to see her
Yeah.
crossover for a bit. She just can't
All right.
talk. That's the problem.
Who's that?
Ty Conti. She
I
just
said she can't talk. Yeah, she's
she her
not. She's not a good talker.
yeah her
But
accent's too
listen,
thick.
I was saying something else too thick. Yeah, AEW. Listen, man. If you are favorable to what Tony Khan likes to present, then you'll get your camera time to develop. So I think Tay Conti is going to be just fine. And by the way, she's done a ton of developing since she's gotten AEW. So I actually like to continue to see that. I love to see somebody actually develop. That's one of the things I really like about what they've done with Britt Baker is you actually can see the development. Like if you were to go back to again when they first started having her do those segments where she was healing on Tony Schiavone and stuff, like the growth is incredible. So
Yeah.
you really actually love to see that. All right. And now I must address a moron. Okay. So somebody wanted to, surprisingly, we only had one comment in relation to the Tommy Dreamer stuff last week, and my little spiel afterwards. Um, some idiot said, quote, every woman has been sexually harassed or assaulted or knows someone who has, end quote. He said equals 60 million women in the US. So the situation there is worse than in the Congo or Africa or Afghanistan. Like, listen, if you want to be a moron, just keep it to yourself. Like, this is not the misery Olympics, right? Like when there's something bad happening to a group of people, comparing it and saying, yeah, but this group has it so much worse, that doesn't make it better for either group. So, like, what's the point of pointing that out? You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of pointing that out? Right? Like when people were saying, hey, stop Asian hate, you know what I mean? Like, what's the point of saying, yeah, well, all these bad things happen to black people too, but like that doesn't make this other thing better, right? So if you don't have something constructive to add to the conversation, take the same advice we gave to Tommy Dreamer. Shut the fuck up. Shutting the fuck up is free. Nobody asked you for your dumbass comment. Keep it to yourself. All right. So for anybody else who has something good to add to the conversation, feel free to drop your comments in the comment section right here below this video. We always appreciate what you guys are adding to the conversation, especially if it's something smart. BQ, you got anything else for the people?
I've got nothing else. Nothing else to
All right,
let my
well, tell
gums
the people where
about.
they can find you in between now and the next time we hop on here and do this show.
BQ speaks on Twitter, and then check us out. The Impact Lounge on Instagram and on Twitter.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can find me at TW Talking About on your social media of choice. You can follow my podcast page at Talking About Pod. Actually, if you guys want to go ahead and help me get my followers up on the Talking About Pod page, I would appreciate that. I'm probably going to relaunch that pod sometime soon. I got a couple of ideas of stuff I've been wanting to kind of do. And if you guys want to show some love over there, feel free to come on over there. So listen, no matter how you are consuming this, be it via podcast or YouTube, go ahead and share it with somebody else who who likes wrestling. Okay, say, hey, these two guys are idiots and you got to hear this dumbass stuff they're saying, or say, hey, these guys, they actually might be adding something fun to the wrestling conversation. You know what I mean? Tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's bring more people into the conversation. Until next time, for BQ, I'm TW. Peace.